Fade the lights, hush the world, and let the story begin. Good evening, friends. I'm Mr. Narratory. If you're here, it means the day is done and the quiet has finally arrived. Tell me, what time is it where you are right now? And what's your favorite way to end the day? If these stories bring you peace, consider subscribing, liking, or sharing them with someone who needs a little calm. Now, let's begin. The bakery opens just after the last light fades, when the air is cool enough to let the dough rise without haste and the stars begin to stretch out across the dark like flour across the counter. There's no sign on the door, only a lantern hung low above it, flickering softly not to call out, but to let you know it's okay to come in if you need to. I arrive quietly, without ceremony, turning the old brass key in the lock and slipping into the warmth that always waits inside. The ovens hum low, already awake, and the smell of sugar and cardamom greets me like an old friend who doesn't need to ask how I've been. The counter is wide and wooden, worn smooth by years of elbows and hands, and beneath it are deep drawers full of linen and spice, little tins of lavender, cinnamon sticks, dried lemon peel. I light the candles one by one, not because I need the light, but because they make the shadows feel like part of the story. The first thing I bake is always the same. A round loaf of honey bread, soft enough to pull apart with your fingers, golden at the edges, and sweet like rest. While it rises, I mix the dough for other things-seeded rolls, oat scones, tiny cakes filled with fig or pear or custard, depending on what the evening feels like. I don't use recipes. The dough remembers. The air tells me when it's ready. Some nights, I bake alone, and the quiet is full and perfect. Other nights, people come. Not many, just enough. They don't knock. They simply arrive, step through the curtain at the back, and sit quietly at one of the 3 small tables near the stove. No one speaks unless they want to. Most of the time, I just hand them a warm roll or pour tea into thick, curved cups. Some bring their own jars of jam. Some leave notes on napkins, folded and pressed beneath their saucers. There's a journal on the counter where guests sometimes write a single sentence before they leave. I never read ahead. I let the pages wait for the right night to open. There's no time here. No closing bell. Only the slow dance of dough rising and ovens cooling, and the hum of something gentle unfolding. And if you're here now, listening, I hope you've found your way to something warm too. Maybe you've been on your feet too long. Maybe your thoughts have been loud, but you're safe here. You can sit a while. There's enough bread for both of us. The moonlight pools near the window, like it always does. Just enough to soften the tiles. And in this quiet, where nothing is urgent and everything smells like cinnamon and butter, we'll let the night rise slowly, the way bread does best when no one is watching, but someone is near. The second batch of bread always finishes, while the windows are still fogged from the first, and by then, the bakery has settled into its rhythm. The kind of quiet that wraps itself around you like steam from a just opened oven. I move slowly, flour on my forearms, my hands shaped by years of repetition, each movement part of a memory I don't need to think through anymore. I dust the counter again, not because it needs it, but because the sound of flour falling is soft and certain. Outside, the town is dark, but not asleep. There's always one or two lights still glowing behind curtains, one or two footsteps echoing down the cobbled alley. And sometimes, if I look closely through the front window, I can see a figure pause before continuing on not to come inside. Not tonight, but just to remember that this place is still here. That warmth is still being made somewhere. I open the little drawers beneath the counter and reach for the dried fruit, the rose petals, the vanilla beans wrapped in waxed paper. Each one has its own kind of hush. Tonight, I mix a spiced cake batter that smells like orange peel and cardamom and tuck it into small paper molds. They'll rise slow, domed and golden, while I steep tea for no one in particular and watch the candlelight flicker across the stacked glass jars behind me. The hum of the oven is steady now, deeper and lower, like a lullaby beneath conversation. I don't speak aloud. I don't need to. But sometimes I hum a note or two, nothing much, and the sound settles in beside the warmth. And if you're here, even quietly, I hope you can feel it too, that little shift in the room when everything stops asking and simply begins to hold. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to finish everything before softening. It's okay to pause now. You've already done enough. I set out the round loaves on the wooden cooling rack near the window, where the night air will brush against their crust just enough to make them sing. They crackle as they cool, each one releasing a slow breath, like it's grateful to be here too. The tea is ready now. I pour a cup and leave it near the window ledge, where someone might sit. Maybe it's for you. Maybe just knowing it's there is enough. The bakery doesn't ask. It only gives. And in this quiet, I'll stay near the stove, watching the next tray rise while the sky outside deepens into its darker blues, holding space for every guess spoken or not. Somewhere around the third hour, the rhythm of the bakery slows even more, the pace falling into step with the hush out street lamps flickering faintly through misted windows, the last sounds of the town folding gently into stillness. The scent inside has deepened honey crust, steeped tea, sugar melting into butte-reach layer, settling over the room like another blanket. I move more quietly now, not out of necessity, but out of respect for the calm. The rolling pin rests beside the flour bowl, the towel I draped over the resting dough, holding the shape of my hand where I last smoothed it. Everything feels soft, not just in texture, but in presence. The kind of softness that says you don't need to speak to be understood. A low creak in the floorboard signals a guest not hurried, not shy, just someone arriving in the way people do when they know they won't be asked anything. I don't look up right away. I pour tea first. Steam curls upward. The mug is thick and warm between my palms when I finally turn and offer it, along with a small roll wrapped in linen. They take both with a grateful nod and sit near the back, by the low window where moonlight slides in across the floor like it's been invited. No words pass between us, and none are needed. I return to the dough. It's ready now. I press it gently, shape it without force, place it in the round tin that always seems to be waiting. And maybe you're here too, in a way. Maybe something in you is resting alongside the stillness. You've found a soft place to land, and that matters. You matter. The world may not always give you space to be still, but this story does. I slide the bread into the oven, and the flame catches with a low hum that sounds like welcome. I wipe my hands on the apron, watch the shadow of the flame flicker along the tiles. Behind me, the quiet guest is already asleep, head tilted against the window, fingers still curled around the cooling mug. I pull a quilt from the bench by the stove and drape it gently across their lap. I never ask who they are. I don't need to. The bakery isn't a place for stories out loud. It's a place for stories that are felt. Stories that unfold in the stillness between a warm drink and the smell of cinnamon. The next tray is almost ready. I don't rush. Everything here rises in its own time. And when it's done, I'll be here with the lights low, the bread warm, and enough quiet for everyone. By the time the fourth tray comes out of the oven, the bakery is quieter than even sleep. The kind of quiet that arrives not because sound has left, but because comfort has settled in so deeply that even footsteps feel like part of the hush. The guest by the window has drifted fully into rest, their breath steady, face softened, the kind of sleep you only fall into when your body knows it's safe. I check the loaf in the tin and smile to myself. It's perfect, of course. This dough always is. It knows how to rise with just enough resistance to be strong and just enough softness to be shared. I wrap it in parchment and place it on the cooling shelf beside the others, where the bread sighs gently as it releases the last of its warmth. My own shoulders drop as I pause beside the stove, mug refilled, the tea now dark and deep and steady like a slow river. There's nothing more to prepare right now, just the air, the scent, the steam, and if you're still listening, still here in this soft little hour with me, maybe you can feel your own breath beginning to slow. You don't have to hold anything right now. You can set it all down. You've carried enough today. Let this be the part where you just exist, like the tea on the counter or the quilt on the chair needed, quiet and warm without needing to prove it. I step out the back door briefly, just to let the night air brush against my face. It's cool, but not cold. Crisp, but kind. The stars are soft above the roofline, flickering like tiny windows in faraway houses. There's no wind, only stillness. A cat walks across the far end of the alley, tail high, eyes full of its own private story. I nod to it, and it vanishes beneath the shutters, like a dream you don't chase. Back inside, the bakery has taken on the scent of brown sugar and spice. Something I didn't plan to bake, but must have started anyway. Sometimes my hands know more than I do. I lean against the counter, sip slowly, and think about nothing in particular, just the comfort of walls that glow from within and a room that always smells like something is being made for someone who needs it. There's a fresh towel folded beside the sink. I drape it over the bread and watch the corners fall perfectly into place. The candle flames barely move, and everything, the walls, the loaves, the steam, the guest, the stars, just stays. Around this time of night, something in the bakery begins to glow that has nothing to do with candles or ovens. It's more like warmth that settled into the wood itself, into the floorboards and the heavy beams above, into the corners of the room where light doesn't quite reach, into the shelves lined with jars and tins and tea leaves wrapped in parchment. The oven hums steadily, its heat softer now, more like a heart than a flame, and I move without thinking, the way someone returns to a rhythm they never meant to forget. The last batch of dough has already risen sweet rolls, studded with dried berries and brushed with milk in it. I press them gently into their pan, thumbprint by thumbprint, as if tucking them in. The guest is still sleeping in the chair by the window, their mug empty, their breathing even. I refill it anyway, letting the steam rise again. Some gestures are meant not to be used, only offered. Outside, the moon is lower now, casting long lines of light across the tiles. The bakery holds that light, stretches it, softens it, turns it into something edible. I lean against the counter for a moment and close my eyes, just long enough to feel the tea warm my hands. And maybe if you're here with me now, you can take a breath that doesn't have to carry anything. Not an answer, not a plan, not even a reason. You're safe here. Let your mind wander. Let your weight sink into the floor. You've made it this far, and that's more than enough. I open my eyes again, and the dough has risen just a little more in the bowl beside me. It's always doing that rising, when no one is watching, becoming more just by resting. I light one more candle near the door, not because it's dark, but because the flame feels like a gentle sign that everything is still unfolding. The scent of the rolls is rising, now berries warming, milk turning golden at the edges, sugar beginning to curl into its final form. I slide the tray into the oven with quiet hands. There's no rush. The last of the night is here, and it doesn't need to be filled. It just needs to be held. Behind me, the tea cools again. The stars outside blink in their patient rhythm, and somewhere nearby, another loaf rests beneath a towel, untouched, perfect, waiting to be part of someone's quiet. The final tray finishes in silence, its scent gently spilling into the room like breath into morning. The oven clicks low, its glow dimming not out of exhaustion but satisfaction. I move without sound now, my apron dusted with flour, the hem of it brushing against the warm tiles as I turn, lift, and set the pan beside the others. The rolls are golden, soft at the edges, and the smell of milk and fruit clings to the air like something remembered. The guest near the window hasn't stirred. Their shoulders have settled lower into the chair, their face turned slightly toward the candlelight, as if even in sleep they can feel the warmth nearby. I pour a second cup of tea. It's more for the room than for anyone else. The steam rises slowly, curling over the rim and carrying a quiet comfort across the counter. I lean on my elbows, palms around the mug, and let the stillness hold me too. There's nothing more to prepare, no list to check, just the rhythm of cooling bread and the hush of a space that knows when to stop. And if you're still here, still listening, maybe now is the moment where your breath finds its natural pace. Maybe your thoughts have softened just enough to let you rest. You're safe. You've made it through the rush of the day, and here, in the warmth of this imagined kitchen, nothing is expected of you but stillness. Let the weight of everything you've been holding slide off your shoulders for a little while. You don't need it in here. I take a bite of one of the smaller rolls, just warm enough to pull apart with my finger sand. The flavor settles on my tongue like a memory I didn't know I missed. Sweet, soft, familiar. I wrap the others in linen, one by one, stacking them in a wide basket. I'll leave near the back door for anyone who might pass by in the early hours. Some people don't knock, they don't sit, but they take what's warm and needed, and that's enough. I wipe the counter clean, let the tea steep a little longer, and walk quietly to the guests' table. I place a second quilt over their knees. They don't stir, but I think they know. I think they can feel the hush. The light has turned no deeper gold at the edges, moonlight threading through it. I don't speak. I just sit at the table across from them, my own tea in hand, and let the quiet hold both of us. The bakery doesn't close. It simply rests, like dough beneath a cloth, like hands folded on a table, like stars settling into their places one by one. There's a certain silence that comes only once a night, the kind that arrives after all the work is done, but before the world begins to wake again. It's not a gap, not an absence, but a fullness that presses gently into every corner. That's where we are now. The ovens have gone completely still, their warmth lingering in the stones, the scent of brown sugar and berries hanging in the air like the last lines of a lullaby. The windows have gone soft with condensation, and the candlelight dances more slowly, like even the flames are beginning to rest. I haven't spoken in hours. I haven't needed to. My movements have slowed to the kind that don't interrupt anything folding a linen square with both hands, wiping down the counter with long, careful strokes, refilling the small sugar jar that sits beside the stove, even though no one will use it tonight. These rituals aren't for necessity anymore. They're for rhythm. They're for presence. The guest in the corner stirs slightly, not quite waking, but shifting in that way people do when the warmth of a blanket becomes part of their dreaming. I rise quietly and check their mug, still faintly warm, and I switch it for one freshly poured. The tea is lighter now, chamomile and mint, the kind that doesn't ask anything of you except that you stay just a little longer. I sit back at the far table, the one closest to the rear door, where the breeze sometimes pushes through the bottom seam and carries in the scent of the sleeping street. Outside, the night is thick and still, but not heavy. It holds everything in its place. The stones in the alley are damp with dew. A moth taps against the glass once, twice, then drifts away, leaving only the memory of movement. I breathe in the warmth, the sweetness, the hush. And if you're here, still with me in this quiet hour, I want you to know you're not late. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. This night, this breath, this pause, it's yours. You've earned it by being. The tea in my hands is cool just enough to sip slowly. I take a drink, and it tastes like everything's soft. Warm linens, the first 5 minutes of sleep, the scent of someone baking just for you. The loaves on the rack have cooled completely. I wrap them in waxed paper and twine, tying each knot slowly, gently, like folding the end of a story that doesn't want to stop. One of the candles flickers lower. Another gutters out entirely. I let it. I lean back in the wooden chair and close my eyes for a moment. Not to sleep, but to listen. The bakery is still full of sound, tiny sound. The settling of crust, the breath of steam escaping from between floorboards, the faint, near imperceptible hum of something content. I open my eyes again and look toward the window. The guest is still resting. The sky beyond has deepened to indigo, the last stars flickering just above the rooftops. Morning hasn't arrived yet, but the edge of it is near. And until it comes, I'll stay right here watching, warming, resting too. The sky was beginning to pale when I noticed it just the thinnest edge of morning brushing against the window panes. The stars above beginning to dim, not all at once, but like candles being blown out by a kind and patient breath. The guest by the window shifted again, this time slowly waking, stretching gently beneath the quilt without opening their eyes. I didn't speak. I rarely do. I simply poured another cup of tea, light and herbal now, almost clear in the cup, and set it quietly at the table where they could find it when ready. The bakery had cooled by then, but the warmth still lingered in the walls, in the flour on the counter, in the soft breathing of the night that hadn't quite let go. I moved slowly through the space, fingers brushing the edge of each wrapped loaf, checking knots, smoothing parchment, straightening linen small tasks, done not because they were needed, but because they gave shape to the final moments of quiet. The air smelled faintly now of vanilla and sleep. The candles had nearly burned to the ends of their wicks, their glow soft and low and close to the wood. Outside, I could hear the faintest bird song beginning in the hedgerows, still far enough away to feel like memory. I stood at the center of the room and closed my eyes, just for a breath or two, feeling the stillness around me, no emptiness, but fullness that didn't need anything more. The kind of quiet that feels like being held. And if you've made it this far with me, through all these soft hours and all this slow warmth, I want you to know I'm proud of you. Truly, you've done enough. You've made it through another night. Whether you slept or wandered, whether you sat in stillness or thought of everything all at Onsinoni of it was wrong, you are allowed to rest now. More than allowed, you are welcome to it. Like fresh bread on a clean counter, like steam rising without rush, like light arriving at the pace of breath. I stepped to the front door and opened it just a little, letting the morning drift in. The air was cooler now, carrying the promise of something beginning, even though the night hadn't quite said goodbye. I left the door ajar, just enough for someone else to step in if they needed to. I turned off the oven, blew out the last candle, folded the apron slowly, and placed it on the chair by the stove. Behind me, the guests stood quietly, quilt draped over their shoulders, cup in hand. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Some goodbyes are better kept in silence. Folded into the scent of cinnamon and thyme, I walked out through the back door and into the softest part of the morning. The light silver now, the stones damp, the sky so pale, it felt like it could be touched. The bakery stayed behind me, but its warmth stayed too, like steam caught in my collar, like a memory that only ever made you feel full. And somewhere between the click of the lock and the sound of my own footsteps, I smiled not for an ending, but because I knew I'd be back again. Quiet waits for us, always. Thank you for spending this quiet night with me, dear friends. I hope the warmth of the bakery followed you all the way to the end. If this story helped you soften, rest, or simply slow down, leave a little note in the comments. Tell me what time it is for you, or what moment in the story felt like home. If you'd like more cozy stories to drift off to, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps keep the oven warm and the kettle full. Until next time, rest well and sleep gently.